Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day. And today I kind of just wanted to cover on these Chinese bikes and whether you should buy one or not. So first off, let's start with like a couple pros and cons of the bike. So obviously the most obvious pro of this bike is it's cheap. This bike in particular is the 2020 Tao Tao TBR7 and it was $1,350. Another pro of this bike that I've noticed, and well, I've only have 250 miles on it, but from what people are saying, longevity-wise on these motors, they're pretty reliable. They're designed basically copied right from Honda. They're the CG style motors. Originally they were CG 125cc, but they've been bored up to a 229 or 230cc. They call them a 250, but they're not 250s at all. Another good thing about these bikes is they're really easy to mod. You just have to need basic tools, a little bit of basic knowledge you can find on the internet. It's very friendly to the new rider, especially someone who's not familiar with bikes at all. It's very friendly in that sense. So another good thing about this is it's very capable given its price point. This bike, given the right mods, can deliver like top speeds of upwards to low 70 miles an hour, which is very impressive in my opinion for a 230cc motor, especially given that it's not even an overhead cam motor, it's a push rod motor, which obviously loses some efficiency there. But it is a very capable bike if you're looking for, your everyday commuter. Now, some of the cons of the bike is really mainly that one, it needs work. I do not recommend you buy one of these bikes and just ride it out of the box as is. I highly recommend against that. People do it, but I highly recommend against that because one, you can screw with the long-term reliability of the thing. Two, you're not going to be happy. And then what I mean you're not going to be happy is you're not going to be happy screaming down a back road doing 55 with the throttle pinned the whole time. You're not going to be happy with that. If you're just in the city and you're putting around at like 35 every single day, sure, you don't really need to do anything, but I would still do at least a couple things to it per se, even if you were living in the city. This bike is not fast. It's not fast. Let's get that out of the way now. They're not super fast bikes. 0 to 60s in like 14 seconds or something like, or like 16 seconds. I think I had in my last video. It was. Yeah, and you can go check that out if you want to see for yourself. We did a little before and after comparison of an E3 spark plug-in thing. Go check that out. It's actually pretty interesting results. Another complaint that a lot of people seem to have is the China quality of these bikes. What I've noticed in particular on the TBR7 model is the China quality really isn't too bad in my opinion. I've seen a lot worse from the older Hawks that they do. I went through this whole bike, every single nut and bolt, and I only found 2 that were somewhat loose. Everything else was well beyond tighter than it needed to be. So in a sense, that's pretty darn good for a lot of people saying Loctite everything. Now I still took everything out and Loctited it, just vibration prevention, just so nothing comes out because who knows. I'm just a control freak like that. But yeah, the China quality is kind of the downside. You will find imperfections here and there. It's a $1,300 bike, brand new. I mean, you got to expect a couple mishaps every now and then. But let's cover what this bike's good for. Let's cover why you would get this bike. So this is a fantastic starter bike, in my opinion. It is my first bike, my first road legal bike. I've ridden dirt bikes in the past. Obviously, I've ridden lots of four-wheelers and stuff, but this is my first road legal bike, and I couldn't be happier. It's really forgiving with the power band. The power is very forgiving. It's really nice to cruise. it's actually pretty stable at sustained like 45, 50 miles an hour. So it's very manageable. It's very good for, say, back roads, trail riding, dirt roads, gravel roads, and even in the city. Cities would be a really cool bike to just putt around on. Now, what you don't want to use this bike for is highway use. This bike is not for highway use at all. I mean, sure, my end goal for this bike is to reach about 80 miles an hour when I'm all said and done top speed, but sure, it might be able to sustain 65 going down the highway, but I wouldn't do it for more than a mile or two if I just want to go somewhere. I would not ride long on this bike on the highway. Heck no, wouldn't recommend it. And that's kind of true for other dual sports. So when you're comparing this to other top name dual sports, it's kind of similar when it comes to that sense. So let's talk about a couple things that you absolutely need to do to this bike when you get it. Because like I said earlier, you cannot just pull this thing out of the box, slap the front tire and handlebars on, and go willy-nilly on it. As much as you probably want to do that in a sense, don't do it. Because the first couple things you need to do is you need to change the oil. The oil in there is not very good at all. You need to change it. And you need to change it with regular convention oil, not full synthetic yet, because you need the motor to break in and have the rings to seal. If you put in that full synthetic stuff, it's gonna slip past those rings and be all slippery, and it's gonna burn a little oil, and those rings are never gonna seal in that cylinder. So replace it with 10W40 conventional motorcycle oil, wet clutch certified. You need to obviously go over every single bolt on the bike, lock tight any that you think need be. That's just so the thing doesn't fall apart on you when you're riding down the road. Loosen the chain. These chains on these things come very tight out of the box. Now it's gonna stretch a little bit when you ride it around, but they come way too tight. You're running the risk of snapping that chain if, say, you put too much stress on it. So loosen the chain just a little bit. Another thing is you need to loosen the valve clearances. These valve clearances come on this bike so ridiculously tight, I could not fit my smallest feeler gauge in it. You will notice a slight bit more of tapping noise coming from those valve clearances once you do the valve adjustment, but you will be happier with it because there is a slight, very, very slight power increase from, say, idle to when you first start moving. You can notice there's a little less hesitation in it, which is nice, because sometimes before I did my valve clearances, I would go to start off, I would just let out the clutch and go to start off, and the bike actually shut off on me a couple times. That's kind of annoying. You don't want that. And then obviously, another big factor when it comes to how it's running, rejet that dang carb. The stock PZ30 carburetors aren't terrible on these bikes. However, they do come sealed, and you need to kind of hacksaw your way through it to replace the jets, and you gotta kind of pick out the cap that's over top the air fuel screw. I went the easier route. I just bought a $20 carburetor off Amazon, a Mikuni VM 'I'll put a link in the description below for that if you guys want one. Came stock with 100 main jet. Pilot jet is what I'm running now. Made a little bit of adjustment to the needle just to make it one clip up richer, and otherwise it was direct fitted, and the bike runs pretty great. And also, as far as jetting goes, I have a 118 main jet in there. That's just with my current setup and the mods that I have. It is running a little rich. I do have to readjust. If you're putting that same carb and exhaust on, I would highly recommend putting either in a 110 or a 115 main jet, depending on your elevation. So, another thing that you need to do is sprockets. This is one of those things I was talking about earlier where you don't want to be doing 55, holding this thing wide open throttle the whole time wherever you're going. That's just annoying. Not really good for the motor anyway. So, what I recommend for anyone just starting out with one of these bikes come with a 15-tooth front sprocket on them. Get a 17-tooth front sprocket, the JT sprocket. I'll put a link to the description below for one of those as well, and you'll see a top speed increase from around 55 miles an hour to about 62 miles, or 60 to 62 miles an hour. You can decide if you want to play with the rear sprocket at all, like I did. I wanted a little more speed out of it, just a little more sustain so I wouldn't rev it out. So I actually went with a 42 tooth rear sprocket. The stock sprocket on this bike was a 46. Comparing to the Hawk has a stock rear tooth 50. And I can already imagine that would be really, I think would scream trying to do 55 miles an hour. So I do recommend doing that. You don't need to do that, just depending on what you need to do speed-wise. Definitely change your front sprocket though. And then the last thing I would say to do to these bikes, when you get it and you have it all apart, you're checking all the bolts, seal all of your electrical connectors. Because I have found that my fuse has blown multiple times, and especially when I would wash the bike, there would water be getting into those connectors. And the root of that was the connectors are just so open, they don't seal very well. So I would take apart all, like connection by connection, just pull one apart, fill it with a little dielectric grease, plug it back in, help keep that water out. Because I know since I have the digital dash, when I washed this bike first couple times, the gear indicator wasn't showing the correct gear. It would jump around all over which gear, and I'd be like, what the heck is going on? It made me think the gauge was broken, my bike was broken. I was freaking out, and then I came out the next day, and it was fine. And then I washed it again, same thing happened. I realized it's getting water in the terminals, or in the connectors. So put dielectric grease in those connectors, and you won't have any problem. If you want to wrap them in electrical tape for even added protection, go for it. I don't see a problem. Then you just can't undo the connectors themselves. Other than that, guys, that is pretty much it. So if my final words for this bike, whether you should buy one or not, I think yes, but that also comes down to a couple main things, obviously. So yes, buy this bike if you are a new rider, you don't want to do any highway miles, and you're looking for maybe even a bike you can learn on how to work on bikes. This is the perfect bike to start out with. So yeah, if you guys have anything to say, let me know in the comments down below. I have a lot of big plans for this bike. It includes something like this. I don't know if anyone knows this setup, but it's a little setup I've come up with for this thing, and we're going to be installing this very soon with ported and polished and decked head. And we also have a little piece in the mail coming from Brazil. It's a little piece of metal about yay big, and it is really going to wake this bike up. So smash the like button, subscribe if you want to, but I'll see you guys later.